Hey everybody, Tony D with another hot take. I got to do another one on Antifa. Now, this one's a little heady, so I don't quite have it formulated in my brain, but this is the thought that came to me looking over more Antifa stuff today. So there are different levels now developing and when I say Antifa, I also mean the BLM crew. And really, the Democrats are in that mix too. Although they're kind of outside of it, they're sort of on the fringe, like going, yeah, keep doing that. But they're not. They probably don't have a direct hand. But in between, there are guys that are both Democrats, BLM, and Antifa. And I think we're kind of down to those guys because Trump has basically beaten the Democrats. I mean, he's beaten them back 7 different ways to Sunday. It's quite impressive when you go back and you start looking at it, and it's like, my God, how is Trump still even in office at this point? But when you look at now, we're at the level of prosecutors, right? Trump's beaten back the Democrats in Congress. They're pretty neutralized, although they cause them problems. But Schiff, Nadler, all those guys, they're neutralized. Then it went down to the governors, and again, those guys are kind of neutralized because they kind of threatened Trump by saying, see, we're going to screw up all our cities and states. Come and give us money or help us, or else, you're going to take the blame. And then that blew up in their faces, right? Even though they had the media on their side, no one's really blaming Trump for the unrest. So that didn't work. And so the governors and to a large extent the mayors, the mayors tried their hands, with the Chaz, Durkin, and Wheeler. That's not really working either, although they're kind of in that bubble. And now once you get to that level, the mayors and DAs, so we're starting to get into this level where you got Ted Wheeler, who's, actually said, I am Antifa. He's actually gone to some of these events. You've got even Ilhan Omar was allegedly with her boyfriend at an Antifa event. I think that was more for show because I think it was just one time. But now you have one of these DAs, I believe he's in Portland, or he might have been in Seattle, one of the two cities. He now is friends with one of the more militant members of Antifa. And when I saw that, because they're about the same age, he's like a relatively young guy, I thought, well, this is interesting because Antifa's been around for a few years, and it could be that what we have is a group of people who have specifically infiltrated the local governments to undermine them. So, because I think we certainly have that with some of the city councilmen, especially in Seattle, because you had the one city council person, she actually brought the protesters to City Hall during the Chaz and kind of staged, I don't know, almost like a LARP kind of coup. But not that they could really throw out the mayor and put somebody else in charge, but it kind of felt like that's what they wanted to do, right? They showed up and just did a bunch of screaming. It wasn't like they were doing anything legal. There are ways to, you can have sit-ins and gain the support of the people, but they're not really doing that. Like all these protests, they don't have the will of the people because they're doing so much damage. Even now, it's like these people are so delusional as to think that, we're fighting for the people. The people are on our side. It's just not the case. I mean, more and more people are just turning to Trump, at least the ones that hear about the horrific goings on out west. And they certainly don't want this nonsense. And, you also have these protesters who have now just outright said, give us your houses. This used to be a black neighborhood, therefore you have to give us your house. These are pretty direct appeals to give us what we want or we'll take it. But we have these people in the local government who are now backing this. They're saying, well, we won't prosecute these people, or we'll only prosecute the really, really bad ones. So in other words, like, we're going to tolerate, criminality and vandalism and even up to, I believe, assaults on police officers. Even, you know, there's this new concept amongst the protesters to unarrest someone. In other words, you have, and I don't know why the cops seem to have tolerated this. I don't know why they're doing this, because I can't imagine it being tolerated here on the East Coast. But the idea of unarresting somebody is somebody's getting arrested and then a group of people just sort of attack and pull the officers off them so the person can run away. That is not unarresting someone. That is assaulting police officers, causing someone to escape custody, which I believe is some sort of fugitive thing, interfering with a peace officer, as they call the cops. You know, it's usually a pretty serious charge, and it's usually cause for the cops to whip out their weapons and start blowing people away, or at least doing some serious damage. And yet, you know, I've seen some of these on videos. Man, they just tear the cops off of someone and they go running into the crowd or whatever. What I don't understand is why the cops haven't, you know, for their first move after they get a control of the suspect, unmask them. I'm not sure why they're not doing that. That to me would be my first instinct. It would be like, okay, cuff this guy. All right, take his mask off so we could see his face. Because once you've seen his face, there's really no point in him running, because now you have witnesses. Then the cops make good witnesses. Even in an environment like that, they're going to make decent witnesses. And with the technology we have, not only could they demask them, they could immediately take a picture on a phone, which is what I think they should do. I think they should alter their arresting procedures at this point. They have somewhat, because now you're seeing when they arrest somebody, at least when they plan to, you'll see two cops go down on a guy who's now struggling, and then you'll see the other cops kind of surround them and look for people that are going to de-arrest some of these protesters. They also sort of travel in packs, and then like they might pull a protester in who's thrown something or hit someone, and then they arrest them. But one of the reasons the state police have pulled out of Portland is because in a statement they basically said, well, no one's going to prosecute these guys, so we're going back to different parts of the state where they will prosecute these people. And part of that, I think, was because Antifa didn't totally leave the city, because things were still going on in Portland and Seattle, but they moved into the suburbs and started causing mayhem there. And that's where the cops live, a lot of them. And certainly that's where a lot of people live who would immediately complain, if not, you know, get up and do something. So my question is, first off, where did these sort of second-tier Antifa supporters come from? And two, why are these people putting up with it? You know, I don't think I would put up with a DA in my district who was announcing proudly that, oh, we won't be prosecuting protest or rioters, calling them protesters when they riot. I mean, Kim Foxx has done that too. She hasn't prosecuted something like 25,000 rioters in Chicago. It's like, that's what we pay you to do, lady. I don't care if that's a lot of people. I don't care if it's 100,000 people. Effing prosecute them. I don't care if they all get off. Make them go to court, set a date, drag their asses in front of a judge. That's what you're supposed to do. And meanwhile, you know, I'm sure things haven't stopped for, say, people speeding, you know, and people doing other things that the cops can prosecute easier. I'm not interested in that. I am interested in, first, that people be prosecuted for causing violence. And the rioters, if you're rioting, you're causing violence. Now, it might be that you only damaged property, and that's fair, but that you're rioting, that is, first off, a lot of people normally get hurt in a riot, and second, there is a great potential for physical harm to people in a riot, not just for other people, but for the rioters themselves. I mean, if they hurt themselves, you know, they're going to have to use an ambulance, they're going to have to go to a hospital, they're going to jam up the works. So it seems to me that these people in these major cities and the rest of us in the United States watching, we really need to be wary of anybody on the left side of politics who gives this progressive nonsense any credence whatsoever. Because I don't think most of these DAs, prosecutors, and mayors ran on a ticket of, hey, I love Marxism, or hey, I love socialism, although some of them might have done that, but you probably couldn't get away with that in Portland. But, a lot of them, I think, would start more like, well, I'm very progressive, or I'm, a little bit to the left, or I, admire the socialist, or whatever. I mean, you look at Bernie Sanders, he, to me, is a perfect example. If that guy got into power as the president, I think he would do a lot more than just try to pass some health care. Because what you have to understand about socialism and socialist ideas is, first, they don't work. And when something doesn't work, most politicians don't go, well, that didn't work, let's try something else. What they do is go, this isn't working, I have to make it work. And then, like in the state of New Jersey, where we have contact tracers and nobody's listening to them, I think it's just a matter of time before tyrant Governor Phil Murphy decides, well, we're going to institute a fine for anybody who doesn't answer the phone or doesn't respond to contact tracers within 48 hours or whatever. Because it's going to be like, well, you didn't listen to me, and I want you to listen to me. Now I'm going to make you listen to me. And that tends to be the path that socialists take. Well, we're going to try these socialist programs. They're going to be great. And then they don't work. And it's like, well, what we need to do is force you to use them, and then they'll work. And then when that doesn't work and people balk, then it's like, see, you're resisting me. Now I got to force you even more. And that's where those guys head. So, what am I suggesting? Well, we got to get these guys out of office. And I think we have to, again, teach the Democrats a very tough lesson that we will not tolerate them at all until they draw a line between normal Democrats who, are moderate guys who like unions and a couple of moderate things, and socialists. Anybody who's a socialist should be in a different group. They shouldn't be in the Democratic Party, and they should be kicked out. Until the Democrats draw that line and that limit, I don't think any sane person should be giving them support.